All right, guys, I wanted to show y'all what I had to do here with Little John. That's what I call this mower, is Little John. It's a little 636M. I use it to get in a bunch of backyards. I've got a W36R up there too that we get in the backyards with. But the PTO clutch went out on this mower recently, which is really disappointing because check it out. This thing's only got 114 hours on it, and the PTO has already gone out. This is only the second PTO that I've ever had go out in 20-something years of mowing. And I don't know, very disappointing for it to go out so quick. So in doing some searches, looking for what PTO am I going to go with, let's check on the price of a factory PTO and clutch is what I mean. And so I run across Xtreme. Here we go. Xtreme outdoor power equipment, and they claim to be made better, and it's really cool. There are certainly things about it that is made better. This pulley is billet instead of stamped steel. They have the internals are made to cool better. The wiring harness is more heavy duty, and it has a bigger bearing. That's one of the biggest benefits, is has a bigger bearing in it. So it was about the same price as a factory OEM clutch. And because of this OEM clutch going out on me so quick, it made me think about, hey, if I'm going to spend about the same amount of money, let's get something that claims to be better. So I will tell you this, I've already installed the clutch. I wish I could show you all a video of me putting it on, but I do have several talking points about it, little things that I ran into. Now this may be your experience, or it may not be your experience. So the wire coming up from underneath for your clutch comes through this little hole right here. You'll notice right now that wire is not coming up through that hole any longer. It's right beside it. We'll talk about that in a second. But the factory harness comes from the other side of the engine, and they connect right down here. And there's barely enough room to take those things loose and put them back together. It's very aggravating. I wish Xtreme would have given us a nice long harness coming off of the clutch. They do give you an extra piece that you can extend, but you have to hardwire it in if you're going to do it that way, which is what I wound up having to do. But anyhow, it worked out. I just had to go through a few extra steps that I didn't expect to go through. So this is my harness now. I did end up using, I did my best there to make it nice and, you know, out of the way and look factory and all that kind of stuff. But, all right, so number one, the end of their harness, which you can see part of it right there, is too big to go through that factory hole. So I had to come up right beside it. I've got it zip tied to it so that it'll keep it out of the way of everything. There's a pulley and a belt and all kinds of good stuff right underneath here that you need to make sure you stay away from. But I did end up using that extension piece that they give you. You can see a little bit of the red wire. I put the loom on there that they give you, but you can see a little bit of that red wire sticking out, the red and black. Because ultimately, with trying to work in this tiny little area with these two harnesses, just wasn't working out. And I don't know why, but my factory harness wasn't jiving really well with their harness, and it kept pushing their wire down into the end there. And I would go to put them together and finally get them snapped together, and then it wouldn't be making connection. And I got to noticing it was pushing the wire down in the harness. It wasn't staying clicked up in there really well. So anyhow, long story short, I ended up cutting off the end of my factory harness, using their thing, hardwiring it in. That's what this, part of this connection, my dog's right here trying to get his ball. Part of this right here is where I hardwired it in. Now I did use Tessa tape. That's like that fabric type tape. It's soldered together. You know, I tried to make it like a really nice connection. They give you some good pointers about checking your voltage. So before I even ordered their harness, before I even ordered their clutch, now I found this out online, not really from them, but I got my two harnesses disconnected. I checked the ohms going to the clutch. It was all out of whack. You're gonna wanna see your ohms somewhere around like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, something like that. Mine was just all out of whack. It was all over the place and it wouldn't ever settle. And then I checked my voltage going to the switch, and I think it goes to a relay first, but all of that was good. With the mower off, key on, I was getting 12.5 volts, but with the mower running, it's like 13.2, I think, something like that, 13.2, 13.3. So everything was good going, because a lot of times you'll burn your switch up because your PTO goes out and it's drawing too many amps and it will burn up your switch. So my switch was still good, relay, fuses, all that was good. So I knew my clutch was bad. So really cool. Check that out first before you go ordering anything. That'll help you determine what you've got wrong. Is it the clutch? Is it the switch? You can do some checks like that before you spend any money at all. But they want you to check your voltage and things. And they want you to check it with the engine running, which is a good idea. They want you to torque that bolt, very important to torque that bolt, which I did. And then after the break-in period, there's a break-in period to this clutch. They want you to check your torque again, which I did, and it was still fine. I didn't have to tighten it back up anymore. But anyhow, I'm hoping I get a lot better service out of this thing than the factory one, that's for sure. But let me show you over here. I got a little 12-volt test bench that comes in super handy when doing other stuff. But here's the reason my factory, gosh, it's gonna be hard to hold this with one hand, but the ground wire right there, you can see a little bit of the copper. The ground wire had a break in it. That's why the clutch stopped working. Mike could repair that. I have to probably pop this out, and I don't really know, but honestly, I may keep this as a spare just in case, or I may chunk it. I don't know, but you see the size of this. The size of the bearing on the Xtreme clutch is a lot larger than this one. I also gave this 12 volts. Actually, I gave it 14.6 volts, but and to make sure this clutch still works. And it did. When I first put it on here, it didn't, but I could wiggle the ground wire and make the clutch do its thing. So that is the reason why this went out. But even still, even with it being an electrical issue like that, I'm still disappointed that that thing didn't go several hundred hours before going out. Here's that factory harness that I wound up cutting off. I cut it as close as possible so I'd have as long a wires as possible. And on the factory side for the mower, it's got 2 positives and 2 negatives. The positives are both blue, the negatives are black. They're just tied together, but going on the other end of this, even for the factory clutch, was just one positive, 1 negative. So if you end up having to do this, just tie those 2 blues together, tie those 2 blacks together, and then tie those into the positive and negative going down to your clutch. But anyhow, also, what is it? The other thing about it is when you go to torque this, a lot of people, I'm sure, are running an impact and just tightening the crap out of these clutches, you know, 75, 100 or more foot-pounds. These things are only going to call for like 55 foot-pounds or less. It goes by the bolt size. That's your factory bolt holding on your factory clutch. There's a paper in here that tells you what how many foot-pounds to tighten that bolt. I recommend doing that. Trust me, when I was young, I didn't pay attention to stuff like that, but I've gotten a little older. I do things the way they're supposed to be done, and it's just the right way to do it. So, but the bushing, I'll call it a bushing, that goes in here, that your bolt runs through, that bushing is like, part of it's round, but it has two flat sides. You can hold on to that with a crescent wrench, a large crescent wrench, because when you go to tighten this bolt up, it's going to want to spin the motor. Even if you try to hold the belt, kick the PTO on, whatever, you're not going to be able to hold that engine when you're going to tighten it up. So that's the way that's intended, is for you to hold the sides of that bushing, because that will hold the engine, because that bushing has a keyway, the clutch has a keyway, and the shaft coming out of the bottom of the engine keyway. So all of that is held together, and when you hold that with a crescent wrench, it will hold the engine from not wanting to spin on you. So anyhow, just a couple of pointers. If somebody's fixing to do one of those, that's some stuff that you may or may not run into, just to have you maybe a little bit better prepared. But it's working great. I did that break-in period. They want you to turn the blades on and off 10 times at half throttle, not full throttle, half throttle. Turn it on and off 10 times to fully running, meaning the blades for a few seconds, and then turn it off until the blades completely stop spinning, and then turn it back on for a few more seconds. And they want you to do that 10 times at half throttle. And then when you're done with all that, they want you to check the torque again. And we did that. So I may have to post another video. Hopefully this thing will go several hundred hours now with no issues at all. But if I have to do anything else with the clutch, I'll definitely let you know. My harness now is, I've got enough length in there that I can actually work with it a little bit. So that's good. I don't think this is going to cause any problems coming up through that other hole there. Let me get you zoomed in. You see that little round hole? That's where part of that harness, that plastic, was too wide, just barely, but it was too wide to come up through that hole. So there's actually plenty of room over here, and it's out of the way from the belts, the pulleys, the clutch itself. All of that stuff is out of the way. Hated to have to do some of these types of things, but I tried to make it a clean install and make it as nice as possible anyway. So anyhow, that's it for the Xtreme OPE clutch. Wish me luck. Drop me some comments. Let me know what you think about all this. We'll see you next time.